Hey, what's up? This is Andy Samberg. Welcome to the all-new ShowbizMonkeys.com.
Around this town, I'm alright. Around this town, I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire. Move to the left, man. No fuss.
Well, when I was at McGill, I used to throw parties. I was like the biggest party promoter there, and I was also part of a fraternity. And one of the sororities nicknamed me Sugar Sammy because I used to have the cheesiest lines ready, like on demand. I was like the best, man. I was the best at it, like so good it was bad. It was horrible. I mean, I even look back at it now and I cringe. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, so they called me Sugar Sammy, and then everybody started calling me Sugar Sammy, and then it caught on. And then I started calling my company Sugar Sammy Presents because everybody knew me as Sugar Sammy. And that's it. The rest was history. I kept it as a comedian, and people kept following me from my parties to my comedy shows. And then it took off, and now I can't even get rid of it.
Hey, if it works, it works.
50, well, that's Sugar Sammy. Well, I mean, I had no choice. When I was doing, I had no choice, you know? I had no choice. When I was in Quebec, I mean, they force you to go to French school if you're, you know, the kid of an immigrant. You have to.
Yeah.
Basically, Bill 101 forced us to go, which I think is a great thing still. I mean, I'm happy I got to go to French school because it made me totally bilingual and now quadrilingual because of, you know, my Hindi and Punjabi. And, I mean, obviously, the more you learn and the more languages and cultures you're exposed to, the more it'll feed into comedy, you know? And then just having that dual sort of French, English, you know, sort of acumen made me just that much stronger, you know, in terms of being able to do comedy in different languages as well. I do comedy in 4 languages, and I draw from 4 cultures that are very strongly embedded within me, you know, and then I learn from everything else that's around me, but I feel like I'm a part of 4 of these cultures, you know, so they're very evident in my comedy, and it's just a part of who I am, so it definitely helps. Eddie Murphy is probably my biggest influence by far. Everyone who knows me knows that. And if you really watch my act and you watch me, you can probably pick up on that. I mean, to me it's obvious. I'm like, you know, I learned, you know, structure and rhythm and timing from watching Eddie Murphy Delirious, you know, over and over. I killed it, you know. It's like I had to buy another copy just because I killed the first copy, you know. So I think my biggest influences have always been, my early influences have been African American in terms of comedy, and that's within everything. I think my biggest influences in terms of culture have been African American, in terms of music, TV, movies. I've been very drawn to that culture, you know, early on, and then, you know, later on as I grew up, I started being interested in other stuff too. So, you know, my influences are a mix of all of that, but African American culture for sure. My biggest influences are Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence. Those 4, I think I could say, are my 4 biggest influences. And then now, you know, much more. You know, Sacha Baron Cohen, who does the Ali G stuff, Ricky Gervais. You know, I could say Andrew Dice Clay is a big influence on who I am as well, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I love his work. And even now I watch his stuff, and I'm a fan of Andrew Dice Clay. And I won't. Anytime he's here, I'll be the first one, or he's down in whichever city I'm in, I'll be the first one to go buy tickets. You know, and a couple others here and there. But yeah, like a big sort of spectrum of influences in there. My favorite place to play, and will always be my favorite place to play, is Montreal, Canada. Nothing will beat that. It's home. Yeah. You know, it's where I'm from. It's my roots, and it's where I draw my material from, and you can see it. You know, there's so many particular little things that are so Montreal, that are Montreal about me, and you can tell right away. You know, and so I think that's my biggest. That's probably where I love to play it. You know, we've scheduled this tour so that it's a cross-Canada tour and it ends in Montreal, and I sort of did it that way so that it'd be my reward at the end of all of that work, you know, coming back home and playing to my home crowd.
Plus, of course, it's a comedy hotbed.
Yeah, it's a comedy mecca, you know. I mean, I'd probably say in terms of level of comedy, it's probably the 3rd highest level of comedy in the world after London and New York. I'd say London has the highest level of comedians. I love working in London because it brings my game up. you know, gets me to write in a different way, gets me to write in a more complex sort of way, structure my material in a different way. And then New York is fun as well because there's so many high-level American comedians there. And then Montreal's probably the third. I would say it ranks third in the world, which is not a bad place to be.
Oh, for sure.
Comedy, you know.
Yeah.
And I would take that behind those two cities any day. I can't say Montreal. Most fun cities to visit. I'll say I love New York.
Yeah.
I love New York. So much, you know. There's so much going on. You could be up at 3 in the morning, and I'm a night owl, and you'd be like, I want to go do something, and there'll be something to do, you know. New York, I'd say would be the most fun to visit. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think even in real life, I have no real taboo topics. You know, people are sometimes surprised about things that I bring up. You know, like I hate listening to people who always start talking about the weather and you know, talk about traffic, and you're like, man, you know, nobody really wants to talk about that. You know, it's sort of like you hear this banter, and everybody's like, just get down to the nitty gritty and start talking about sex. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about that. And I think in real life I'm that way as well. So it was never something where it became taboo. You know, it was like for me, it was never taboo in real life. It's not gonna be taboo on stage. So who I am on stage is who I am in real life.
Yeah.
There's no real gap there, you know. I think Canadian comics have a sort of mix of influences. I think we're very North American, but we have that British influence as well, and it's there. That's why I think Canadian comics travel so well. You take a Canadian comic and you can sort of put him anywhere, you know, and he'll do well. I've seen that numerous times with guys from Canada do well in the States, they do well in Britain, they do well in South Africa. Guys from Canada do well in all these countries, and then you take guys from the States, and it's not so, you know. They'll do well in the States, and they're actors and travelers.
So have you enjoyed touring in the States when you've gone down there?
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Great. I love touring the States. I think it's one of my favorite places to kind of tour. You know?
And you get a good response.
Oh yeah, I think they're not used to the kind of stuff that I bring. So
right.
But they see that I'm still North American, so they have fun with that. You know.
ShowbizMonkeys.com